So as always, we have additional resources available for you if you're looking to build or expand on your virtual agent or NLU implementation. The one on the left is the new community forum. You can follow the link below, or you can actually just Google it, virtual agent forum, and it should come up. This is where you can ask questions, view articles and blogs, and just really get your get your questions answered regarding anything to do with virtual agent or NLU. We also post all our virtual agent academies up on YouTube. So if you want to get updates every time we upload a new one, you can click subscribe on that and get those notifications. Now, we'll be heading on to the actual content for the session, and I'll be passing on to Rahul, who's our presenter today.
Hey, thank you, Eliza. Hey, hi everyone. So today, as part of this session, what we'll mainly focus on around is let's get to know what IAR for HR is all about and what's the purpose and what's the goal and how we can get help out of that. And then we can quickly dive into a exercise or a demo to understand what are the prerequisites and what are different things involved in setting up IAR for HR. And also then we'll dive into the Q&A. So with that, so why IAR for HR? So basically we have this HR experience where the users come in or the employees come in, raise their cases. But the thing is, unless a human agent comes in and help them with those, there are many routine tasks which we can help with, for which we don't need a human intervention. Rather, the system can help them understand, okay, what they can quickly do to get those resolutions. So that's where, so that we can reduce the high volume routine HR cases, we can reduce them with the help of whatever the recommendations the IAR can provide them. With that, there could be huge cost savings for the organization. And similarly, at the same time, we do get that mean time to resolution much more shorter, and to help them understand that we do care about the employees, and whatever the critical cases, they can always taken care by the agents. And that way they can get their answers much more quicker way, because the agents will become more efficient, and even the users, they do get the answers what they're looking for at a much more faster pace. With that, whatever these trying to get this help of IAR, these are omni-channel experiences where they can try to ask for help in different channels and get that responses back. Because of that, there is no need to be that, okay, they shouldn't be at a particular system or in front of their desktop. It's nothing of that requirement, but rather they can ask their queries naturally in whatever the way they find a fit. But the system will try to understand and try to get the gist of what it is and get the right help required. So with that all said, it's come to the implementation, how long it's going to take or how easy. So I would say we'll go into that part in a bit. But coming to this, it's really easy to set up at the same time, because it's all helped by AI. And already with the help of the AI search, we are pretty much familiar with the platform right now. So that's the one which requires us to get the right responses back to the user, which enables the users to get these right answers to them at a much more quicker pace. So with that, let's quickly see how the IAR for HR flow from end to end. So to understand, whenever an employee or be it the office employee or the non-office worker, they can come in and raise a HR case, and that HR case will be intercepted by the natural language understanding models, where they try to understand the intent and determine, is that case a critical or a non-critical one. So with that understanding, if that's a non-critical case and it's a routine case at the same time, it just goes through the AI search, which gonna come out with the relevant search results. Those are nothing but the search recommendations. That way it can present the users with what would be the helpful articles or the catalog items for them. And that's it. Parallelly, if NLU model determines those cases are really critical, then rather than routing them to the AI search, it directly routes them to the queue, what is present or whatever planned for the current scenarios. So that way they can get to the agent rather than waiting on going through that search recommendations. So these are the two different scenarios where we can get through, and all said and done, even when it goes through this AI search and gives out the search recommendations, there could be a scenario where the end user might find it or the employee might find it. The search recommendations are helpful, which is good. But in the scenario where they might need more help or they find the search recommendations not very much helpful, and every phase of their steps, they would be presented with the option that if they want to get this case routed to an agent. So that's how the end-to-end flow looks like for IA for HR. And with that, before diving into the exercise, I want to probably bring up this question of many might be having, oh, okay, we already seen this IAR for ITSM, and now here we have this IAR for HR. So what's the difference? So the difference is this, that in issue auto resolution for ITSM, whenever an incident is being created, those incidents are again similarly intercepted by NLU model. But the thing is, if it's going to determine if there is any relevant virtual agent topic for which it can be provided help with, so that the virtual agent topics, which are actionable flows, which going to surface and provide the required help and walk the user through that virtual agent flow. But whereas in IAR for HR, here the IAR routes the user through the recommendations of AI search to find the relevant content, if there is any. It tries to shows them whatever that search recommendations in different channels. We're going to go through what are the different channels from which they can get those notifications. So with that, I'll switch to the exercise. So to start with, so we do have a store application. So if I can switch quickly, so that's the issue auto resolution for HR. So that's a store application where we can request this, then we can go back and install it as a plugin. But even before doing that, it does have few prereqs, which are the AI search, the NLU workbench, and IAR as a framework. It's a plugin in itself, and human resources scope app. So these are the prerequisites or the plugins required to get started with IAR for HR. So we'll also go in depth of how important does the AI search have within these scenarios. Before going to that, let's quickly assume that now that I installed all those plugins and I also have the IAR for HR installed. So I'm going to start now. My aim is I want to set up or activate IAR for HR. To that, first I'll go with our familiar settings page under conversational interfaces. I'll go to settings. So once we are under settings, let me click on virtual agent. So under virtual agent, we do have this issue auto resolution. The status is right now it's turned on. We need to make it turned on. And if I click on view settings, it's going to take me to the different configurations available for IAR as a framework, because the configuration for HR and even for the incident, if we can see, these are all the out of the box configurations. Let's focus on this HR core case, which is the base table for HR. So I can open the tab. This is where I can configure or try to understand what are the conditions on which I want this IAR for HR to trigger. So to start with the task configuration, once we are here in this auto resolution configuration, we're going to go through different conditions. Then we can try to make it active by checking this checkbox. To start with the task configuration, the key thing for us is, oh, a user comes in, they open a HR case, but what are the conditions under which the IAR for HR intercepts? Because there should be some understanding of the system that it shouldn't be interfering with every case which the end user opens. So to that, say, in out of the box, currently what we have is the source should be coming, whatever the source from where the email case or the HR case is originating, it should be email or it can be self-service. And the HR service should be general inquiry. And similarly, the HR fulfillment type, it should be manual. And similarly, we can also set up the task SLA. So what's the time or for how long after which the case should be handed over to the human agent. So that's one thing. Right now, I simply had this task SLA set up with certain number. That said, then it comes, what would be the exit condition? Even though now I talked about the triggering condition, what are the conditions on which if it's satisfied, it just exits? So the exit condition currently is, right now I changed it, but out of the box, what it's going to look at is the predicted criticality. If it's critical, because as we are talking about, if a case is critical, it should better off handed over to an agent. And similarly, if the case is non-English, so even that's the other scenario where the case would be handed over to the agent, because right now IA for HR, it works for English only. So with that said, then we don't, the machine learning model or intent to topic map, there's nothing much we need to configure at this point, but rather the machine learning model, there would be a model here which we point out, which gets trained. But that said, the only thing that as an admin, we need to be more focused around is the task configuration, exit condition. And then now comes I'll quickly touch upon the AI search piece because that's as pretty much a big piece. But rather our main focus here is to talk about the notifications and the different response channels. So to touch on AI search, whatever the recommendations we're going to see with IA for HR, those are all coming from the AI search we are pretty much used to. And the good thing here is, however, how we understand of setting up the AI search, that's pretty much similar even here. It's basically have a search application which is connected to a search profile. So if I can go here, there would be a search profile specific to issue auto resolution. And within the search profile, we do have these search sources like any other AI search profiles. So we do give that search sources with the certain conditions which are relevant to the HR. So that's the only key point where we need to be focusing on, okay, what's the type of content we want to get surfaced through IR for HR for our employees. So that's one key thing. So if we can focus on that, it's as simple as, because this configuration it's already attached. And here, if you see the search results portal, what does this mean is, whenever we get these recommendations back as notifications, if we want to click on those results, what's the portal where those results going to land on? So right now it's connected to Employee Center. So with that understanding, let's now move on to notification preferences.
And Rahul, one of the biggest questions we get is, can notifications be personalized? And what can customers do with those?
Oh, awesome. Yeah, thanks for that question, Marcel. That's a great one. Let me answer that right here. So to start with, whatever the notifications we see here, we have different ways, be it the email, virtual agent, and the other ways, whatever we see out of the box, we can try to activate them. And these notifications, we already have these pre-configured notification templates, which we generally use. And if you see the initial recommendation email, for example, it looks like as simple as any other email notification within our Now platform. We do have different channels over here. Probably what I can talk about is mainly focus on the virtual agent right now. So once we set up this IR for HR, we also want to make sure, because we were talking about the end user, they can come in, they can open the case from their email, or they can open the case from their portal. But that said, they might not be just looking out for the resolutions in those same channels, because they will be doing their own works and they will be just going off. But that said, if you can turn on virtual agent, they would always get that notifications, be it in their MS Teams or even within the web portal. they can get those notifications and get actioned upon much more quicker way. So to start with, we'll talk about virtual agent notifications. So if I can go back and virtual agent settings. So first thing we need to make sure is we turn on the notifications, configure web client notifications. I would say use notifications. That's one, to make sure we get the notifications in the web portal. And the other way is if our virtual agent is set up with or integrated with MS Teams or Slack. So then what we can do is we'll go to all messaging app integrations. So this is where we'll get to see the configurations set up. So here, if you see, we try to connect it to MS Teams, but also we need to make sure we enable the notifications for all users. That way, whenever a IAR notification comes up, they can proactively see that and action upon. So that's one other place we need to make sure. And switching back, so these are the basic setup. So we already have this initial recommendation email or the catalog submitted email. We have this email notifications, and also we have the notification templates for the virtual agent as well, which we can get to see under, if I can type, provider and under notifications. This is the module where we can see the notifications which are set up for the Microsoft Teams as well. So with that understanding, I'll now switch to the actual employee experience, how it's going to look like. Before I do, are there any questions?
Yeah, Rahul, we have a great question, and I think it's back on the task configuration tab on the setup. And there was a couple conditions we had in there. So the question is, do we have to list English as part of a consideration? So list out that language, and also if you could speak to the requirement for general inquiry, that would be helpful also.
Okay. So if I understand the question correctly, is it the question like, okay, what are the questions or what are the conditions basically which should be satisfied for the general inquiry?
Yeah, and the general conditions. So I think we have something explicitly saying it must be in English, there must be a task type in English. So just clarifying if that is required, or is that just the best practice that we recommend?
Yeah, sure, Masa. So to that understanding right now, we have two type of conditions. One is the triggering condition and the other one is the exit condition. Triggering condition is nothing but what are the conditions which the HR case should satisfy to get the IR for HR go through its NLU model or go through its AI search recommendations. So those are the triggering conditions. So right now, what we have set up here, that's as a recommendation as we provide. But that said, it's not a mandate because right now, whatever the record I'm looking at, it's pretty much customizable. You can always change it because based upon this fulfillment type of the HR service, I can change to some other HR service if I have any. And similarly, the source of contact type. Right now, because mostly we generally go through, understand the HR cases come through email and self-service. That's why we set up or say that the cases coming in from email and self-service are the ones which going to help trigger this IR for HR. And similarly, the exit condition here, this in a way, this is in a way non-negotiable. I would say the predicted criticality for the exit condition. If the predicted case is critical, we always want the case to be going into the queue so that the agent can give the proper help directly, rather than the end user waiting through these recommendations. So that's why that's one mandatory thing. And the other condition which isn't here is the language. So which is generally the predicted language should be, or if the predicted language is not English, that's also the other condition, because these two are something we shouldn't be changing, I would suggest, at this point of time of the release, because these are pretty much required for the proper functioning of IFR HR, because it makes sense, as I pointed out, for why the criticality. If it's critical, it should always go to agent. And similarly, IR for HR, currently it works for English only. And that said, the task configuration, we can always customize it according to our needs of whatever the case getting opened, what are the conditions which should get satisfied for this to get triggered.
Great. Yeah. And one thing to point out too, since I know a lot of customers tend to use the general inquiry case type quite often, just make sure it's set to manual here. Because if you've created a flow designer or have a service activity workflow behind it, that may impact how it's going to work. So just note it needs to be set to manual.
Yeah, great point, Masa. So with that, let's switch to the portal experience. So for that, I'll quickly go to my employee portal. I'll just assume the avatar of an employee. This is the end of the year, and we are looking for some help around benefits or insurance, etc. So, okay, I want to open a HR case, so I'll get to the general inquiry. So, okay, so these are the genius result I got. Let me click over that. So here, it's asking me, okay, what is your question? So let's me, probably we can talk about whatever some questions like how to sign up for a insurance, or we need help or info about the benefits. So probably what we can try to see is need info on benefits enrollment. So let's submit this case. And as this HR case gets submitted, so what generally happens is the area for HR, as soon as this case gets created, the issue auto resolution framework, it intercepts, and the natural language understanding, it tries to interpret the intent of the case opened, and based upon the description and short description of this HR case, and tries to identify its criticality. And obviously, as I said, the critical cases will get routed to the general queue so that they can be reached to the agent. But if not, if it's a non-critical case, they are provided with relevant knowledge articles or catalog items for reference. And during this whole process, whatever we see through, what we try to understand is it does give the employee an opportunity that they can request the case can be assigned to an agent at any given point of time. So with that, let me quickly switch to my virtual agent, because I just opened my, because me being an employee, generally I'll just open the case, I'll just get off. So here, if I get back to my MS Teams where it's integrated with virtual agent, I can see a notification dynamically getting popped up, because this virtual agent, because this is the place where generally our employees reside, where be it in the Slack or even the MS Teams, it's a similar experience of these notifications where we see it's asking me if it can provide me some help for this particular HR case which I just opened, or should I be asking it to wait for the human agent. So what I'm going to say is, why not? I'll get help now. So with that, so it's going to present me with whatever the recommendation articles or the catalog items it got. It tries to surface them, if you see. So these are the recommendations right in front of me, and I can quickly, probably I'll go through this benefits enrollment policy. I feel this might be helpful to me. I click on it. It quickly take me to the employee portal, which we were talking about, which was connected in the configuration. It takes me to the TSC portal and shows me that article. And if I find it helpful, well and good, then what I can do is, because I read the article, I got some help, I can say, yes, it helped me. But in the other case way around as well, if it didn't help me, because it's the sweet part where I say, yes, they helped, it's going to go through and try to close out, or probably I can show you guys right here. If I say, yes, they helped, it's going to ask me, what are the recommendations? It try to understand which helped me, because it learns from this feedback in a way. And if I click benefits enrollment policy, and you can always skip this feedback to be given, it's not mandatory. But that said, once I say that, it's still, there could be two scenarios where I'm happy with this resolution, I'm done with this case, or the information is good, but probably I need more information, or I need to understand more about my issue. In that case, I can say, yes, keep it open. If I do that, it's gonna route it back to the general queue. If not, I can quickly close it. So now that I can quickly say it helped me, I'll say no, close it. So now here we don't need to, there is no intervention of in this whole flow, the human agent, and all the routine HR cases, they can be helped by this simple flow of the help with the IR for HR.
Yeah, Rahul, no additional questions. But maybe as a last comment, maybe you could just share some of the the favorite capabilities that you've heard from customers, or just some wins in their eyes.
If I can focus again on the notifications, the end users, because they open these HR cases and they might just doing their own work, but there are different response channels from where they can get the help, be it their emails or virtual agent, which can be integrated within the MS Teams, Slack, or within the portal, or even via SMS, because the SMS which is connected through the Twilio Notify, they can also get these notifications or the recommendations straight into their phone, where they can be provided with the link and they can click from there and get access to the recommendations. And all that said, even if the worst case, for example, the case gets opened, they try to see some recommendations and employee feel that the recommendations are not helpful, then they will send it back to the agent. Even at that scenario, even the agent is empowered with more knowledge that they're going to see some certain recommendations were sent to the end user, but they are looking for more help. That's why they are reaching out for the agent. They do see all that history of that HR case, what happened. And that way, even the agents can give a better help, provide better help for their employees.
Great. And we have a couple more questions. I don't know if we want to take those or respond to those in a follow-up.
So if the user didn't react to the solution, is there any time limit when real agent check the incident and work on it? Yep, absolutely. So to that point, that's where this task SLA comes into play. So we set up here a certain amount of time, be it right now it's 10 minutes or 10 hours, etc. We set up a time, which is the task SLA, and we have this reminders option as well. As the SLA runs through, while it's 50% or 75%, we send these nudges as email notifications to that employee so that they can see that there is some help being provided if they want to take it up. In the other case where the task SLA might lapsed and it's overtime, then it automatically gets routed to the agent. So that way there is no human intervention is required. And the other question I see is, are these successful interventions by the HR bot logged in the conversational analytics dashboard as a particular deflection? That's a great question. And to this point, yes, whatever these HR cases being deflected, or to say they are being tackled by this HR bot, I just want to touch upon that quickly. Whatever the HR bot we are seeing there is just a name of the another user profile. We can always change it, but that said, a HR bot, which means the IR for HR got intercepted, and all these analytics are collected, and this IR for HR out of the box comes up with a dashboard. Probably that's for a different session, but we do collect these metrics and try to understand what are the cases which are being helped and what are the cases which are being routed to the agent.
Yeah, so thank you so much again for presenting today. I hope it was helpful for everyone. We'll be uploading this to the YouTube playlist that we have. As an announcement as well, we do have other Academy sessions focusing on other areas of the platform that might be helpful. So if you're looking for more information on any of these topics, please go ahead, follow the links on this page. And now, as some of you have probably noticed, we have changed the format for the new community forums. And we would love if you are able to provide any feedback on that. We have a link available up here if you scan the QR code, or I've also posted it in the WebEx chat as well for you to follow. we'd really, really love your feedback. It's invaluable to us. And yeah, that's it from us. We'll see you in a fortnight.
Yeah.
Have a good rest of your week, guys.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.